You're seeing this on radar too, right?
Yes, you can detect this on our live radar picture. So this is St. John the Baptist Parish. This is Garyville. You can see the large plume of smoke. It's showing up green here on our radar, and the prevailing winds right now are moving from east to west. So the smoke plume is going to move mostly in a westerly direction. And I know there are some schools like St. John Elementary School is west of the Garyville plant. So that is something is going to be very dangerous, of course, with this huge cloud of smoke just pushing from east to west. And of course, that plume can travel west of the river. So it is moving in this westerly direction. So if you live along Louisiana 54, west of there, places like Mount Airy, west, even down to Lutcher. Lutcher's a little bit farther away, but it is moving in this general direction, thanks to the prevailing winds coming mostly from the east. So if you are east of the Garyville plant, you probably can see the smoke really billowing up and raising up really high into the sky, but the plume is heading to the west. And we'll take an even closer look. So there's Angelina, there's Mount Airy, there are a couple elementary schools near the Mount Airy area, and that's where the smoke plume is moving. So this is what we're going to continue to see, kind of this direction of the smoke. So an even closer look, you can see some of these busy thoroughfares along the river bend here. So Garyville, Angelina through Mount Airy, that's where the smoke plume is moving. I can get a little bit closer. I can pull our computer monitor closer so I can read off some of these street names in just a few minutes. But first, we're going to toss it back over to Leah. She's going to give us some more information.
Yeah, Alexa, just seeing that how big it is coming up on the radar. Just to let you know how massive this fire is. We do have some updated information to share for you guys. There is now a 2-mile evacuation zone surrounding this plant where this fire is happening. And as you just heard Alexa mention, there are some evacuations for schools in that area. I'm going to read off some of those right now. East St. John Preparatory Academy, 5th Ward Elementary School, and East St. John High School all have been placed under a shelter-in-place order due to this fire at Marathon Petroleum. We are expecting to hear more from officials out there as they are actively working to contain this fire. You see those flames going right there. Massive plumes of smoke in the air at this refinery fire in Garyville. Again, there is a 2-mile evacuation zone surrounding the area of this fire. And again, there are some schools in this area that are sheltering in place due to this fire. Again, they're at East St. John Preparatory Academy, 5th Ward Elementary School, and East St. John High School are all on a shelter in place order due to this fire. Again, it's happening at Marathon Petroleum. Alexa, I mean, just seeing those flames on the screen right now, you see the fire still coming up around it. So still a very, very active scene that we're seeing out there in Garyville.
Right, and the winds are, it's a little bit breezy occasionally. Again, winds coming mostly from the east. I'll show you the wind around 5 to 10 miles per hour at this point. Steadily coming from the east, maybe more of an east-northeast direction. So some of the smoke plume can kind of move off to the west and southwest. I'll take a look now at our radar picture showing what the smoke plume looks like so you can get an idea of where it is located, essentially right over the city of Garyville. But as it kind of moves to the west, it can go over several schools and several neighborhoods west of the plant. So this is what it looks like on our live radar picture. It is a huge plume of smoke. It is black, thick smoke. So that's why our radar can detect it. And so if you're east of the plant, so if you're in Dutch Bayou, there's reserve, you probably will not get any of this smoke moving in your direction since the prevailing winds are coming mostly from the east. So that means it's going to push off to the west, kind of putting an arrow to show some of that smoke might drift west of the Mississippi River as well. This is in St. John the Baptist Parish. So if you live along Louisiana 54, if you're in any of those neighborhoods along that road, you will likely see this smoke plume pushing by and continuing to move in that westerly direction. Again, an even closer look showing Angelina and Mount Airy, a couple elementary schools in the Mount Airy area. We'll, of course, have to unfortunately deal with this right now. So that's why they have the evacuation order and a 2-mile radius of this dangerous situation, because that plume is so thick and it contains likely some dangerous chemicals.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the updates right now that we posted on our website, wwltv.com. We do know that whatever is being released from this plant is a flammable mixture of something that is actually found in crude oil. So this is something that you definitely want to pay attention and take heed to these warnings. Shelter in place if you are in that 2-mile radius. You do have to evacuate, but any of these surrounding areas, I mean, you see it on the radar right there. This smoke is moving, so make sure you take this seriously and shelter in place. We do have some schools in the area that are under this shelter in place order. Again, East St. John Preparatory Academy, 5th Ward Elementary School, and East St. John High School. They are all currently under a shelter in place order, and again, a 2-mile evacuation zone for this area that is currently seeing, I'm sure, these huge clouds of black smoke into the air. This is tied to the Marathon Petroleum plant. Officials do tell us that they are working to put out this fire, but it is contained to the refinery's property. So that's good news, but I mean, we still see this smoke in the air. So I'm sure a scary sight for people out there, but just take heed to the information. 2-mile evacuation zone. So if you know you're within that distance of this plant, make sure you get out of there as soon as possible. We are still waiting to hear from officials on any updates from this fire. Again, 2-mile evacuation zone for this area. Schools in the surrounding areas are currently sheltering in place, and we are continuing to await more information from officials because, again, Alexa, this smoke it's pretty intimidating to look at, and the fact that it's being caught on radar is
yeah,
it's a lot.
Goes to show you how high the cloud is billowing up, and it's such a dark cloud. It's really scary and ominous, but it's good news that they said they, kept it. They're keeping it within the confines of the refinery. Let's hope it continues that way because it contains dangerous, like you said, flammables, chemicals. So it is definitely a serious situation. I keep wanting to mention that it is moving to the west. That smoke plume can get pushed to the west. It's not terribly windy outside. Our wind speed's around 5 to 10 miles per hour. So that kind of helps. It's not going to keep just blowing and blowing and blowing. But luckily, our winds are a little bit lower. If it were somewhat of more of a breezy day, I would imagine that maybe the evacuation zone would be larger. So the fact that the wind speeds are somewhat manageable today keeps it less of a serious situation, but nonetheless, it's extremely serious. It's certainly something that you need to heed those warnings. And if you live in Angelina, Mount Airy, Garyville, I see there's several blocks, several neighborhoods, schools. This is a serious situation, even parts of Dulcin, just east of the refinery. But if you're looking towards Angelina, a lot of it is kind of like not very much populated. However, there are several blocks in the Garyville area and Mount Airy's vicinity that, of course, people have their homes, their businesses. So this is certainly something we are going to have to keep a very close watch on until that fire is contained.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to give you guys another update as to what we are actively learning right now about this, we do want to reiterate some of those shelters in place around this area. There are 2 schools that are on alert because of this fire. East St. John Preparatory Academy, again, has been placed under a shelter in place order, and the Garyville, Mount Airy Math and Science magnet schools are asking that parents pick up their students as soon as possible. District buses are also going to be bringing some of those students home that attend that school. Now, St. John sheriffs did send out a statement from the Marathon Petroleum saying that the extremely flammable chemical caused the fire. Now, the types of chemical that is in this is used in converting raw materials like fuel into gasoline. The fire was caused by the chemical had broken out in Lake Charles just like this back in June. So this is something that officials have seen before, that hopefully they are used to dealing with this type of chemical that has burned, and soon we'll be able to get more information from them. And we are actively getting more information as this is unfolding and happening right now. We did recently get some sound from a resident who is out there in the area. Okay, switching gears now, the news conference is beginning to happen in just a few minutes, where we hope to hear more from officials out there who are currently working to contain this blaze out there at this chemical plant. Again, an extremely flammable chemical that is actively burning right now. You saw those massive cloud smokes in the air. The sky looks pretty black and gray surrounding this area. You can still see some of those flames coming up out of from this chemical plant. And again, this is a very dangerous chemical, so we are actively working to get more information from the St. John Parish officials on what is actively happening and their efforts to contain this fire. I mean, when you think about this massive smoke cloud and this chemical, breathing this in is definitely something that you do not want to do. They have issued some shelter in place for some of the schools that are a little bit outside of that 2-mile evacuation zone in this area. But if you are anywhere near this area, Alexa did tell us that the wind will be carrying this smoke cloud to the west. So you want to make sure that if you are going west of Garyville, you are taking heed, sheltering in place, or just getting out of the area just to be sure. Because again, officials are telling us that this chemical is highly toxic. Let's send it over now to those officials that are getting ready to give us more information about what they're actively seeing right now with this fire out there in Garyville.
Ready when you are. Yeah, ready when you are.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We're in our Emergency Operations Center. At 6:53 a.m., St. John the Baptist Parish officials were notified of an incident at Marathon Petroleum and quickly responded. We have been working very closely with Marathon Petroleum, emergency responders, as we respond together to the fire at Marathon Petroleum. We are being assured that all of the impacts are contained to the Marathon site at this time. However, as a precautionary measure, I have issued an emergency declaration and a mandatory evacuation for all residents within a 2-mile radius of the Marathon Petroleum site. We have opened shelters at East St. John Prep Academy at 400 Horry Drive and at East St. John High School Gymnasium at 1 Wildcat Drive. Also at West St. John High School at 480 LA 3127. This is being done again as a precautionary measure. We have been assured that all of the impacts are contained to the Marathon site. However, our fire department and their emergency responders are still working to contain this fire. Also, we have brought in other fire personnel to man our fire stations so that if we do have an emergency that has nothing to do with this emergency at Marathon, we will be able to respond to that as well. At this time, I'm joined by representatives from the Sheriff's Office, the Port of South Louisiana. We're waiting on the school superintendent, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. If not, I can turn it over to allow someone else for some
Jacqueline, when was
comments.
the first evacuation order issued to the residents around the plant, and what is the big concern right now regarding air quality, even though it appears that the fire is contained within the plant itself?
The evacuation order is being issued now, and we wanted to make sure that we got the information out to everyone at the same time and not, piecemealing any information. So as soon as we activated our Emergency Operations Center, I issued the emergency declaration and called for the mandatory evacuation within a 2-mile radius, and we will put the map up. We have some in the EOC so folks can understand. It's really a precautionary measure. There's a large smoke plume over the area, and so we just want to make sure that we're taking all steps that we can to ensure that our residents are safe, even though we are being assured that any impacts have been contained to the Marathon site. At this time, there are no reported injuries at the site. We have our fire chief, who is also on the site as well, reporting back to us as they work together with Marathon Petroleum.
Do we know how the fire started?
I would allow Marathon to address that. They are here. They have a representative. I don't want to speak for them.
What's your understanding for the air quality impacts? What should residents be staying inside if they're anywhere near? What can this smoke do to them?
Our recommendation is that if they are within that 2-mile radius, that they do take this evacuation, take that seriously, just in case there are any impacts. There are air monitors on site. I know that LDEQ was on site at Marathon this morning, as with state police and other emergency responders, assessing the safety of the situation. And again, we've been assured that all of the impacts are contained to the Marathon facility, and what we are doing right now is serving as a precautionary measure.
Was the evacuation order just issued, or did you issue one earlier? Because Riverside Academy has already moved over to East St. John High School.
They moved on their own, just as precaution for their students, but we just issued the mandatory evacuation order, and I signed the emergency declaration about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago.
Are you satisfied that that was done quickly enough?
Yes.
And should residents outside the evacuation area be doing anything to protect their breathing?
I think residents should take any precaution that they feel necessary for their personal situations. We've been assured that, again, in that 2-mile radius is where the concern is for any smoke, you know, the smoke plume that is moving as a result of this fire. We've been assured that that is a safe area, that 2-mile radius. But of course, if there's a resident that's on the edge of the 2-mile or just feels that because of some other underlying condition that they need to further protect themselves, we would always encourage that.
Madam President, you grew up in this area. Did you witness the plume yourself this morning? And if so, just maybe describe how that compared to some of the other incidents that you've seen growing up.
I didn't witness it. You know, I'm a little too far from where the plume is, but obviously we have cameras, you know, that we're able to view what's taking place at Marathon right now from our Emergency Operations Center, and we do have staff on the ground. And it's alarming, you know, to see what's going on. So I understand the residents' concerns, especially for residents who have, you know, been here for a long time and seen, you know, different incidents that can happen. So it is a little scary, and that's why we have all been assembled here, including our partners with Marathon, to make sure that we put together a unified response and that we're working together to ensure the safety of our residents. That's always our priority.
Given the fact that it's still burning, 4 hours after it started, is that a little concerning that it still doesn't appear to be under control, at least from what we saw about a half hour ago?
I will let Marathon speak directly to that. I have had conversations with our fire chief, who is on the site, and they are going to deploy additional tactics to get this fire under control. We do have about 11 to 15 of our own fire personnel on Marathon's property right now, working alongside Marathon. That's why I mentioned that we also have outside fire resources to man our own fire stations in case someone has an emergency not related to the incident at Marathon. We'll be able to properly respond.
Have you and plant officials drilled on a fire of this magnitude before?
We have drilled on just about any incident that could potentially happen, and that's why when incidents like this happen, we are able to quickly set up shelters. The schools, they're always embedded in our EOC and all of our emergency officials. There's a plan in place for just about any incident that can potentially happen, so we're able to respond very quickly.
And this question is for, I guess, Marathon, Petroleum. I don't know if they're, okay. Just the amount of hazardous materials that you all have stored at the plant, if you could talk about that.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yes, Justin Lawrence. I'm the Human Resources Manager at Marathon. As far as the quantity of material, so this was contained in one tank. I can't speak to, I don't have the answers for the total amount on site, but this was confined to a tank that's leaking.
Speak up a little.
Can you
Yes.
tell us a little bit about what's the tank? Tell us a little bit about what's in it.
Okay, the product in the tank is a naphtha product, so it's a partially refined product that we use it as feedstock or components to make gasoline.
And how long do you anticipate this will burn?
That's a good question. We're doing everything possible to get the fire out. You know, we're working with, we've got state and parish officials. We've got, you know, response teams from our sister refineries or other refineries coming. We've got a lot of people that are there supporting us, help get this under control. That's really our top priority. As far as the timeline, I'd be making a guess.
Were you starting up or shutting down that unit when it caught fire? Was anything happening at that unit specifically when the fire started this morning?
It was not a process unit that where the fire is. It is a storage tank for holding product or product components. So the storage tank was leaking, and as this morning the tank ignited. Sorry, the tank didn't ignite. The product that is contained in our perimeter around the tank ignited, and that's where the fire is.
Do we know how that happened?
That will be investigated, but we don't know how that happened at the moment.
The fire is so large, how were you all able to get personnel out before anybody got hurt?
So the fire kind of has gone in highs and lows, right? So initially it was kind of a lazy flame, and we were putting foam on it to keep the fumes and fire down to keep it contained. But, you know, as it picks up and this morning, you know, as the day gets hotter, it did reignite, and there's been spots where it's harder to control. So we're getting additional resources and doing everything we can to contain that.
Dustin, what can you tell the residents about the quality of the air that they're breathing right now, even if they're outside of this 2-mile evacuation area? What precautions should they be taking against this smoke?
I would listen to the guidance as far as the evacuation from the parish. You know, as far as the smoke, the readings, we have off-site readings. We've got our air monitoring team deployed. They're doing their rounds, and you know, currently we don't have any off-site readings, but as a precaution, we have closed down that 2-mile radius.
How many personnel are involved in the fire suppression effort?
I'd be making a guess. I couldn't tell you that. We've got responders that come in from elsewhere, so to say how many people are involved in that, I don't have
How
that
do you put
information.
something like that out? What's being done?
So it's really about containing with the foam and getting the teams, you know, surrounding that and doing everything they can to put that out. But I'm not a firefighter, so I'm not going to try and tell you how I would handle the fire.
Any concern just when it comes to the material in the tank causing any kind of explosion?
You know, there's always potential, but you know, again, the focus is getting the fire put out as quickly as possible. So getting the additional support on site, the additional foam on site to contain that fire and get it out as quickly as possible. And
Definitely. I was also going to ask, when was the last safety or fire inspection?
I'm the wrong person to ask for that. I'm sorry.
Sir, are there any
Let me just
are there
circle
any
back on
estimates?
one thing that you said earlier, that it was the material, that a product that was around the tank that initially caught fire. Has the product inside the tank since ignited as well?
No. So part of our emergency response plan or spill plan, we've got a tank dike, so an area around the tanks that is able to contain the product that's within the tank. So, you know, this is part of our contingency plans, and unfortunately we have to enact it right now. But the product that is leaking out of the tank is going into that tank dike area, and that's where we're keeping the foam to keep that out. So the fire is not in the tank; it is around the perimeter where that naphtha is pooling.
So are you saying that the fire is only in the containment area and not in the tank itself? We've been told it's 2 tanks that may be on fire.
So the tanks themselves, again, this containment area, the tank dikes, you got multiple tanks out there, and that containment area, you know, it flows together in some areas. So it's not every single tank is in a specific area. Some of the places flow together. But the tank itself is not on fire. It is the product surrounding the tank that is in that tank dike that's on fire.
Is anybody with the company estimating how long it might take for that material to burn off?
We've got people doing all kinds of estimates, but I couldn't tell you what that looks like. All I can tell you is that, again, we're trying to get the fire put out as quickly as possible. We're pumping out the tank. We're shutting down the refinery. That process has been going on. So we're trying to take all the right measures to get it under control and
So you
address it.
are able to still operate and pump down the tanks that you do have? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying we're the tank that's leaking, we're pumping out.
So you
Everything else is shut
You
down.
can still operate then, if you could run pumps and activate
Yes.
those pumps. The plan is still operational.
That's correct.
And do you anticipate any need to expand this evacuation buffer zone?
I would leave that up to the parish officials, and I'm not the right person to answer that question.
In the last 10 years or so, how many fires would you say have happened on the site?
I'm sorry, I don't have that answer.
Jacqueline, do you have fire officials that can talk to us as well, or?
All of our, I'm sorry. Any questions? Travis Paralou, who is our Deputy Chief of Operations here at the Emergency Operation, can answer any of those questions. And I do see that our school superintendent is here as well, so I can let Travis answer any questions about that. The majority of our other fire personnel, they are actually on the site, but Travis can answer any of maybe more of your specific questions if you have, and then we'll allow our school superintendent as well to address the media.
Travis, what can you tell us about the fire suppression effort itself?
There is a large presence from the Greater New Orleans region, sister refineries, as Marathon stated, as well as assistance from our adjacent parishes with their fire suppression services.
Any idea how many people might be involved in that effort?
In excess of 50 personnel, fire suppression personnel.
And are you getting any estimates as to how long it might take this material to burn off?
I don't have an estimated time of suppression, no sir.
When a fire like this takes place, who takes command of fire operations?
The plant official is the incident commander at that site. They're navigating and putting all the necessary resources into that area where the fire is burning.
Can you say how it was determined that a 2-mile evacuation radius might be appropriate?
Due to what's burning, the chemical that's burning, and the emergency response guidebook that we utilize in this profession, that is what made that.
Why is this stuff dangerous to breathe?
It could have some respiratory effects. However, the plume, we're monitoring that plume, and air monitoring is occurring in those areas as well.
Should residents in an area within 5 miles of the plant be taking any precautions to protect?
5 miles west, the plume is headed in the westerly direction.
And what should they be doing?
Sheltering in place and staying inside if possible.
And is the school superintendent here? What's going on with the evacuation, please?
If you can introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Kendria Spears, Interim Superintendent of St. John the Baptist Parish School System.
Kendria, what can you tell us about the evacuation status of the schools in the district, please?
Actually, right now, currently we have Garyville Magnet School. They have been evacuated to Lake Pontchartrain Elementary. Riverside Academy has been evacuated to East St. John High. All other schools within the district are sheltering in place.
Do you have enough capacity at East and West St. John Parish High Schools to handle the people who are evacuating from within the 2-mile radius?
Yes, currently Riverside Academy school personnel has joined their students and are currently located in East St. John High Gym. Our school board administrative office, as well as our special education centers, those personnel have been reassigned to every school site to assist.
What should people be bringing to the school as they evacuate?
So as of right now, they are asked to bring their school rosters, the school administrators. They are asked to bring their school rosters, their AFA recruiter sheet to identify every student that's on their roster with the emergency contact number of parents, addresses, and telephone numbers as well.
And have you had any students complaining about any respiratory problems?
No.
By all accounts, it sounds like Riverside was evacuated before the evacuation order. What led to that decision?
Basically, that decision came from our parish officials. So they have been in contact and constant communication with school site officials to make that decision. So in turn, we accommodated those school sites.
So, Tar, what do you say to people who say they didn't hear anything about this until they saw it on Fox 8 today? Is the parish's notification system adequate? Should word have been sent out through local media sooner, do you think?
We sent out information, through the methods that we have to notify our residents, but what's very important is to make sure that you send out an accurate communication. So it required us to really assess what was taking place and work alongside those Marathon officials so that we make sure that whatever we put out as a formal communication is the correct communication. And you know very well that in an emergency, sometimes there is misinformation that gets out there. And so as a parish official, it is just much more important to put out correct information before we just put out any information. And so I'm glad that you all have gathered with us today so that you can assist with getting that information. Once we had a statement from Marathon this morning, we did put that information out, and then we quickly pivoted into our response mode and then started to put that information out to our residents.
And when did you use social media to put it out first before this news conference? And when did you first post that?
I don't have the exact time of that. We can get that for you, but we did. We used social media, and we did send that communication out to all of our local media outlets as well.
So what do you want to say to people who see that large plume of smoke and say, we didn't know anything
Right.
about this until we saw it on television? I mean, they're concerned. Is it cause to maybe take another look at the parish's notification system?
We always look at our notification system, but again, the most important thing is that we get the information sent out right instead of quick. We want to make sure that we give our residents all of the correct information, and we did that. As soon as we had most of the information that we were able to send out, we sent it out to all of the media as well. Yeah, this is from our public information officer, within 15 minutes, we sent out a notification, within 15 minutes of that notification. We sent it out to media, and we sent it out on our social media, and we sent it out to local newspapers. We also sent out a press release, and we're notifying residents as well through our Blackboard system.
So you were notified at 6:53?
The parish officials were notified at
And you're saying
6:53.
that a notification went out at 7:05?
PIO notification.
Yes.
It was posted within 15 minutes of a PIO notification.
Posted where?
On social media, the statement from Marathon was posted within 15 minutes of when
Yep.
the PIO was notified.
And
We,
when was
we
the-
have the Port of South Louisiana director here, Executive Director Paul Matthews. I know there might be some changes to what's happening on the river as well, so I want to give him the opportunity to address as well.
Thank you, Madam President. Paul Matthews, CEO of the Port of South Louisiana. The U.S. Coast Guard is continuing to monitor this situation. The river is still active, and as soon as we get notification from the U.S. Coast Guard of any decision, we will notify the parish president, and we will move accordingly. I want to thank President Hotar and her leadership, and the Sheriff's Office and all the agencies working together in this process. But the port is monitoring the situation. We've even offered the Nason Folse and any of our marine ops to help in this process to continue to suppress the fire and contain it where it is.
Have any port operations been interrupted?
Port operations have not been interrupted. We've made some precautions within that 2-mile area, but right now the river is still active.
Have you evacuated personnel from port facilities within 2 miles of the plant?
Yes, within 2 miles of the plant, we have evacuated port facilities as a precaution.
Can you say when you received notification of this incident?
I cannot say the exact time that I received notification. However, we reacted quickly. Our operations team was on the scene to monitor the situation, and we made sure that we proactively alerted our commissioners that represent St. Charles, St. John, and St. James Parish. And we've continued to update them as they may get calls from the community. And just as important, we made sure that we've communicated with the Sheriff's Office and the parish president and all other public agencies that are working on this process.
Can someone talk about how much material is in that single tank? Can someone talk on that?
That would be a marathon issue.
I'm sorry, I don't have the total volume of the tank at this time.
And just the impacts of naphtha. If you could just talk about, the impacts of it, if exposed, right?
I would have to defer to the health officials, I'm sorry.
We have health officials who are telling us that people should have been evacuated immediately. I mean, what do you know about that product, and what do you say to that assertion?
So I would say that, again, when the evacuation notice was given, I think folks should pay attention to that and follow that. Again, we've got air monitoring around the perimeter and in the community, so the readings have been clear. So I think we need to pay attention to what the officials say as far as what we should be doing.
In the past, the onus has been on the plant to handle notifications to the public when the hazardous conditions exist like that. Is something changed? Is this now the parish's responsibility to handle notifications like that?
No.
So
no.
the plan is
Yes,
required to notify?
and Yes, we notify the different government officials based on what's going on.
But there's no call system in place or anything
There
like that?
absolutely is a call system in place.
Was that activated?
Yes.
And what time, just for clarity, what time did the fire start?
Right around 7 o'clock.
We can maybe take one or two more questions. We'll have to wrap this up.
Have there been any injuries? Are there, anybody speak to this?
I mentioned that there have been no reported injuries at this time on the site, and everything that we have received so far is that everything is contained to the Marathon site. The issuance of a mandatory evacuation and other steps that we're taking are precautionary measures that we're putting in place right now, just as a precaution. But we've been notified at this time that any direct impacts of any sort are contained within the fence line of Marathon.
And so you haven't received any reports of anyone being hurt outside of Marathon?
We haven't received any reports of that in our emergency operations center. We are monitoring calls that come into our 911 center. We haven't received any reports of that or any reports of any injury within the fence line at Marathon as well. I did see a representative from the state police department. I'm not sure if you all would like a quick update. He went down the hall on any closures of any sorts. Road closures.
Yeah, well, just for clarification, you said notification went out to social media 15 minutes after you were...
We will put together a correct timeline for you because some of those notifications go out independent of me. We all have a role here, so I don't want to give you the wrong information, but what I can tell you is that all of the communications that we have received from Marathon is that all of the potential impacts are contained within the site. The decision to evacuate the 2-mile radius, which I have a larger map so everyone can see, and we're going to post it as well, is a precautionary measure for those individuals who are within a 2-mile radius, which that's the recommendation of our emergency professionals.
How would elderly people not on social media been notified?
We do use a call system, and we'll verify all of those methods as well. But we do send out information through multiple different ways. And I believe there were also individuals that were deployed into those areas as well. So I'd rather give a more complete answer to you about all of the measures that were taking place to notify residents because I'm not involved in every single step, but I can assure you that everything that needed to be done has been done. And what we're doing now is also as a precautionary measure for our residents in that impacted area.
Are there sirens in that area?
I'm sorry?
Are there sirens?
No, I don't believe there's sirens.
At the plant site.
In the plant site.
Were those activated? Were the sirens activated at the plant, sir?
So Fox 8 didn't get notification until 8:55. I mean, do you think the media should have been notified sooner than that?
We will verify that.
State police, any road closures or anything like that that people need to stay away from, checkpoints or something?
Yes, Christian Reed, State Police. Right now, LA 44 is the only road closure that we have at this time. We are asking for those residents in that area to safely evacuate the area till we receive notification that it's all clear.
You have hazmat personnel on scene, sir?
Yes, sir. So right now, our emergency services unit is on scene, properly working with our partners of DEQ and other agencies as well.
Are they giving you any information on what the duration of this event might be, how much fuel might be involved? How long will you all be on post here in St. John Parish?
It's still an active scene right now. I don't have that information, but when we obtain that, we'll let you know.
What are you seeing out there, sir, with regard to these evacuations? Is it going orderly? Is there something you would like to tell people as they leave their homes in order to try and facilitate things as easily as possible?
Yeah, so if you're within the 2-mile radius, we are asking residents to adhere to the evacuation as we are imposing it. Contact 911 if you need assistance, and check local media for any updates.
Are your personnel near the scene taking any precautions? Are they wearing N95 masks or anything like that?
As it relates to the PPE that is being placed right now, I know that they are there and they are protecting themselves, but the actual PPE that's being involved, I can't answer that. Thank
Maybe
you.
a little early, but can someone tell me if football games might be canceled tonight? Friday night. Might be a little early.
As of right now, we will wait until we receive official notice from parish officials before we make that decision.
Will there be more updates coming, Jacqueline? Is this a couple hours, next 2 or 3 hours, you think? Or-
We will continue to push updates, and I have a copy of the map if anyone wants to take a look at it, a larger version of it. We're going to share that as well. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
All right, if you are just joining us, you just heard St. John Parish leaders give us an update on that massive fire that is burning right now at the Marathon Petroleum Energy Plant. Now, they did say that they are actively working to still get this fire under control. We've been showing you massive clouds of smoke filling the air out there in Garyville. They do say that they are taking precautionary measures for this 2-mile evacuation zone in this area. So if you are anywhere within 2 miles of this Marathon Petroleum plant, you are asked to evacuate. Officials did say if you are just on the edge of that 2 miles and you still feel like you want to evacuate, they do encourage you to do so and take any necessary precautions that you feel are necessary for your own health. Now, in the words of the parish president, Jacqueline Hotard, she said this is alarming. She also said that there were no injuries to anyone at this plant during the time that this fire broke out. They said they initially got notice of this at about 6:53 this morning. So that means that fire has been burning for over 4 hours now, and they are actively still working to get it under control. Now, this smoke that is filling the air is caused from a gas that is called naphtha that is used to make gasoline. So it's highly toxic, definitely something that you will not want to be breathing in. One of the officials who we just heard from did say that it can cause some respiratory issues. So if you know you are at risk, if you are in this area, make sure that you are evacuating. They did mention as well that 5 miles west of where this wind is carrying this smoke through the air, they are asking people to shelter in place. Again, 5 miles west of where this fire is burning at the Marathon Petroleum plant happening right now. That is happening in Garyville. We are going to send it over to our Paul Murphy, who is right now on scene. Paul, I know you are out there. I mean, we've seen the video of these massive smoke clouds out there. What can you tell us now?
Yeah, we are learning a little bit more about that fire this morning that started shortly before 7 o'clock. And from what the Marathon spokesman was telling us, it's not the tank itself that's on fire. There's a containment area, a containment dike that is holding some of that product. It has been leaking from the tank, and that's actually what caught fire this morning. It is a very impressive fire, to say the least. Alarming, in the words of Parish President Jacqueline Hotard, and it is still, as of about 45 minutes ago when I was out there, still burning what appeared to be out of control. And again, it's the product that is in the containment dike that is burning, not the tank itself, but certainly some of the neighbors that I spoke with on the reserve side are very concerned about the potential of an explosion there if that tank were to catch fire, although we're not getting any indication that that is going to happen anytime soon. One other thing that we want to mention is that several times during the press conference, the parish officials said that the impacts of this fire have been contained on the Marathon plant site itself. They haven't noticed any deleterious effects outside the plant fence at this point, but there are air monitoring units that have been deployed. State police is also on the scene checking for any type of hazardous conditions. So for now, there are folks that live within a 2-mile radius of the Marathon plant have been asked to go ahead and evacuate, and some of the schools have also been evacuated and are now going to some of the other facilities in the district. One thing that we're still waiting on, and this was asked towards the end of the press conference about football games tonight, whether they are on or off. Those those decisions are going to be made probably a little bit later based on what parish leaders are telling the school district. So again, there have been some shelters that have opened up in here. If you're wondering where to go, there's a shelter at the East St. John Preparatory Academy. That's at 400 Ori Drive in LaPlace. At the East St. John High School Gymnasium at 1 Wildcat Drive in LaPlace, and the West St. John High School at 480 Highway 3127 in Edgard. Anyone needing transportation can call 985-652-2222. That's 985-652-6338 as well, and hopefully we'll put some of those numbers on our website so you can have it as well. So again, a very active scene right now out at the Marathon plant, people evacuating right now, and we'll bring you the very latest on the update on this situation coming up today at noon. Leah?
All right, Paul. So, I mean, just seeing there, you heard a lot of words that you mentioned from the parish president, Jacqueline Hotard, saying that this is alarming. I mean, this can cause respiratory issues. We heard one of the officials say. Do we have any more information yet as to the efforts that they're actively doing right now to make sure that this does not spread to the other areas that are in this area where this fire is trying to be contained?
Well, they have quite a contingent of firefighters on scene, both from the plant itself. Some neighboring plants as well have sent firefighting personnel, and then some of the firefighting personnel from around the parish are also there. And what we're told is they're spraying foam on that containment dike in an effort to put out the fire. But as we heard not too long ago, the fire, it gets contained and then it reignites. And frankly, when we were there looking at the fire, occasionally you would see a fireball going up in the air, probably about 20, 30 feet. So obviously nowhere close to being contained at this point, but there are personnel from both the plants themselves and the surrounding area fighting this fire.
So clearly a massive response to try and get this under control. You mentioned a little bit earlier, Paul, that you were speaking to residents. I mean, I can only just imagine looking up in the sky and seeing just a thick black cloud of smoke and fire billowing up from this plant. What are neighbors in the area telling you?
Well, they, like most people that see this particular fire, are kind of amazed at the enormity of it. Even hearing Jacqueline Hotard a little while ago saying it's very alarming based on what she's seen. People in this area, they grow up near these plants. From time to time, they do catch fire. Unfortunately, from time to time, there are some emergency situations at these plants along the river. But this one, I've been covering news here for more than 20 years now, and I've never seen a fire quite like this one. So we've been assured from the parish leaders and Marathon itself that everything is being done that can be done to put out this fire. I'm sure they'll be bringing in some additional resources as the day goes on, but at this point it is still a very active scene at the Marathon Petroleum in Garyville.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. Let's send it right over to Alexa Trischler right now, your local weather expert, just to get a look at where these clouds are blowing. Alexa, you mentioned that it's still moving things west, right?
That's right. So the smoke is getting lofted thousands of feet in the air. Now, prevailing winds are from the east, from the surface all the way up. So the smoke is moving to the west. And if you live 2 miles in any direction from the refinery, there is that evacuation order. But even if you live 5 miles west of the refinery, it's recommended that you stay indoors and shelter in place because of the dangerous chemicals that are possibly blowing in your direction, and it's moving to the west.
All right, Alexa, thank you. We will have continuing coverage of this fire on the Eyewitness News at noon, as well as continuous coverage on our website, WWLTV.com, and in our free mobile app.
This has been breaking news from WWL-TV's Eyewitness News. For the latest updates, go to WWLTV.com or the WWL-TV app.